Welcome to the Trading with Venus podcast, where we help you establish strong trading habits, generate consistent profits, and create the lifestyle you desire for yourself and your family. Now your host, Raman Gill.
Welcome to another episode of the Trading with Venus podcast. I'm your host, Raman Gill. One thing that you may not know about me is that before I started trading, I actually used to gamble a little bit. I was a BlackJack player. And the whole reason I got into playing BlackJack was one of my friends used to play BlackJack. So I was just curious about what it was. I had never really set foot in a casino before. And now I don't play any kind of casino games because I think there is enough of the risk that I take in the trading as it is, so I don't need any more thrill than what the market provides me. But before I got into trading, I played BlackJack for a number of years, and I was reflecting on my playing BlackJack, and there are a lot of lessons that I think translate really well from gambling to trading. The reason I started playing BlackJack was because my friend showed me how to. So when I was playing BlackJack, initially I didn't know anything about BlackJack, so he showed me the ropes. And when I went to the casino, they give you this little book on how to play BlackJack, some BlackJack strategies and what you're supposed to do. So I started playing. One thing was I started with a very small size. So I would bet $5 at a time. There were tables where you could bet hundreds of dollars. That was not my table that I would go to. I would go with a $5 table. So I would get X amount of dollars, whatever I wanted to play with. Let's say $100. I would take the $100 and I would turn them into chips, and I would put them on my table, and I would start off with a $5 bet. And I have to say, I wasn't a great blackjack player. In fact, I knew very little about playing blackjack, but I won most of the time. Now, how does that happen? As we know, with gambling, house always wins. The tables or everything is set up for the house to win. So how can a person who doesn't know much about gambling or playing blackjack win all the time? So I think my winning percentage was like 90%, really incredible winning percentage. In thinking about it, there are certain things that I did consistently, and I think I did right all the time. So what are those things? One, I traded with a small size. Even though I may have a big roll, so over time my roll grew, but considering the roll that I had and the trade size or the gamble that I put on was very, very small. So that one gamble going wrong would not take my entire account down. So that's the first lesson that we can translate from gambling to trading. Always trade with a small size, much smaller than what your account can handle, so that if things do go sideways, you don't have to worry about it. Next thing is, I always found that I would ask other people what to do. So if I got two tens, so if I got a 20, two tens, normally in blackjack you would split the tens so you can make your position better. So you're basically scaling into your position because you have a good winning position, and now you can split that position and you can actually double down. So this is kind of like scaling into the position. You have a good position that's going in your direction and it looks like it's going to go further, so you can scale in. So I would scale in with the same size that I had on the table, so I wouldn't just bet the farm on it. So you just double up your bet, but it has to be a good hand. You have to be very confident that the hand you have is likely to win. And also you look at the table. You don't just play in isolation. What kind of cards are coming out? If all the large cards are coming out, that's a good sign, because by the time it gets to the dealer, the card's going to be small and all you're looking for is them to get a 17 so they can get past that. So that's another thing. So we have to look at the market conditions as well, not just our bet, not that what we are putting in, but what is the market like? Is it a stable market, or do we have a lot of volatility in the market where prices could just go crazy from one direction to another? So judging the market conditions, for me that was table condition, what was going on the table. And also another thing that I used to pay attention to was, what are the other people on the table doing? So if there was somebody on the table who would do stupid stuff, like they would hit their 16s or they would hit their 17s, just stuff that you don't normally do in playing blackjack. You would not want to be on that table. So it's like being in the markets. If you find markets are very volatile, you either step out so you're not playing, or you reduce your size because you don't know what kind of crazy thing the market's going to pull, just like we don't know what kind of crazy thing the other players on the table are going to do. Third thing that I used to do was before I would take a bet, I would sit down. Before I could sit down at the table, I would do a walk around. I would go from one table to another, stand by the table for a little while, see how the table was running. Was it a winning table? Was everybody having fun? Were the people consistent in the way they were playing, or were the people upset? Were they angry? And what kind of situation it was? If the table was winning, if everybody was having fun and people looked like they knew how to play blackjack, or at least they were consistent, that was a good table to be on, because you know that it's likely to continue. So that's another thing, was picking the right table. So same way in our market, we want to pick the right trades and we want to pick the right pairs to trade. So the pairs that are performing well, the pairs that are not too volatile, but they have steady moves, those are the ones that we want to get into, not something that is going crazy. Volatility for us is good, but too much volatility can burn our account. So that's another thing that we can directly translate from gambling to trading. So before I take a trade, I always look at the market. I look at what news is coming out. I look at the impact of that news on the market. I look at fractional disparity. I look at what the different pairs are doing before I take a trade. Next thing is taking your profits off the table. This is one thing that I did consistently, and I always did. And this is, I think, one thing that that made my stats so good in terms of gambling. There was one time I went to Vegas with my husband. Both of us went. He wanted to play slots. I wanted to play blackjack because I always won playing blackjack. I tried to talk him into playing blackjack. He was not interested. So anyways, he went off to play slots and I went to play blackjack, and we all had, this certain amount of money that we brought to the table. I was playing blackjack. My husband went and played slots, lost all his money, and came back to look at the table at what I was doing. And I had a few chips left on the table still. So I played for a while, and of course the dealer took all the chips, and once everything was done, he was like, okay, let's go, and off we went. But before we left the playing area of the casino, I told him, okay, hang on a sec, we need to make a little side trip here. And we went to the cage where you go and change your chips. And I took my purse and I dumped it out, and out come these big chips, and they were not tiny ones. We were talking about like $500 chips, $100 chips, and all these. I'll just dump the purse out, and his just eyes go big, and he's like, where were you hiding those? And the reason I ended up with those chips was because every time I would win, I would take the profit off of the table. So the ones that I lost was the initial capital I started with. All my profits I squirreled away. And I had this weird thing about leaving my profits on the table, because I felt that dealers would, or the casino would, take it back, because that is their intention of taking it back. Every time I won something, I would put it in my purse. So let's say if I had a $10 bet. So every time I got $50, so $10, 5 chips of $10, I would exchange it for $50, and that would go into my purse. So next time I won $50, I would exchange my $50 chip for $100 chip, and then once I got to 200, I would exchange it for $200 chips, and once I got to 500, I would take all those chips and exchange it for $500. But I never left my profits on the table. So for us, what does that mean? So in trading, we try to grow our account by just leaving our profits. I actually highly recommend to draw some profits out of that trading account. So one, you feel like you're winning, that you're able to to live off of that, or you're able to have some income coming off of it. So actually it feels like a business. So you're not just putting all the money in all the time, you're able to withdraw as well. So you're able to do something with it. So even if it's not a full-time business for you yet, what you could do is you could say, you will withdraw X amount of dollars. Once you get to X amount of dollars, you will take that money out for something, let's say a vacation. One time I set a goal to buy my daughter's computer. So once I got, I think it was $3,000 or something, or $4,000. I think that's what the computers cost. I took that money out and I bought them computers. And another time I thought, okay, well, I want to go on a vacation with my family, so I set the goal to make X amount of dollars to go on a vacation. And once I hit that goal, I took the money out. And I find my husband does that too. He will make certain goals for himself, and then he will take that money out of his trading account. So that way, you're not just leaving everything in. So it doesn't feel like such a huge drain on your emotions, on your mental capacity. You're actually receiving something for it. So it's like a reward. You reward yourself and you get the money out. Another thing is, though, trading is such a thing where we have to go through some hoops to take money out, right? Whereas with gambling, all it takes is that you just put your chip in your pocket and you're done. Whereas with this one, you have to either fill out a form or you have to request a withdrawal. So we tend to leave the money in. But what happens is when you go down a slippery slope, it is so easy to give all the profits back. So the point is, just take your profits off and pay yourself as you go. You don't want to give all your profits out in with one bad trade. So you want to remember to take the profits off of the table, withdraw it, set some small goals for yourself, and feel like you're actually getting money. And this is a mental thing as well. When you start playing a sport, you want to see some wins. So this way, when you withdraw some money, it feels like you're winning, you're making some progress, and it will keep you motivated to keep on going. And again, once you get into sticky situations, you don't want to give all your profits with one bad trade or one day of slippery trading, which ends up in you carrying a losing trade for days and weeks on end. So we don't want to be in that situation. So it's a good idea to take the profits away. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. These are some of the lessons that I was reflecting on, things that I did when I was actually gambling, playing blackjack, but they translate really well to our trading as well. And as I've said before, in my opinion, trading is not gambling. However, playing blackjack, people actually make money from playing blackjack and from playing poker. People make a lot of money from playing poker, but all the successful poker player, they don't treat it as gambling. They treat it as their business, and they take all the right steps. They manage their size, they manage their emotions, they manage their psychology, they study the strategies, and they do the hard work that goes into playing the game, where you're actually playing it to make money. And this is your lifestyle. This is where you make a living out of this. So those are some of the things that we need to pay attention to, and those are some of the lessons I've learned from gambling that directly relate to trading. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will be back with another episode next time. You have a great trading week, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today. With much gratitude, your show host, Raman Gill.